All right, this is episode 36 of Conscious Growth. Today we're talking about our 4 pillars: ads, analytics, attribution, and influencers. We have some tactical advice for getting a first batch of testing up in a brand new campaign, how you can set that up, where you can get the ads, everything, soup to nuts. Which topic do you want to start with, Austin?
Let's just start with the analytics coupon tracking. A lot of times, I would say most brands don't really know if their ads are working. They know that there's conversions coming in, but Triple Whale, Facebook, Google Analytics, Google Ads, it's like, is it actually doing what it says it's doing? So easiest test you could do, super easy, minimum viable, is just set up some ads that talk about a flash sale that have a coupon code in them, and then watch and analyze coupon code data. And I've actually been finding, because we've done this on a few accounts, I've been finding that it's reporting better than even Triple Whale. The ROAS is better than Triple Whale. So that's been super interesting to watch. Some of that could be like coupon code data within GA and Shopify is delayed. So it could just be like a time lag thing. But I just thought it was really interesting lately to see like scalable campaigns that are just around, a 15, 20, 25% off flash sale that it's clearly only from the ad, because the ad is the only thing that mentions whatever that code is. And then you can assume that there's buyers on top of that came and didn't use a code or use another code or signed up for your email list and then use your email list code. So super easy test to do, just to verify once again that you're actually seeing results from Meta. And that unlike all these companies we talk to who tell us, we shut Meta off and we didn't see anything bad happen to our business. When was that? 2 months ago. Cool. Wait 4 to 6 months when there's no new people coming in. Meta does work, and you can prove it this way pretty easily.
Yeah, and the flash sale is good because obviously you're going to see results a little bit quicker. But in general, like Meta is one of the main demand generation platforms for direct-to-consumer e-commerce. So this is kind of just a continuation of our series on different ways, like the spectrum of attribution for direct-to-consumer marketing. We usually talk about coupon codes being the hardest kind of first line of tracking because it's easy to attribute those sales to the platform they're coming off, and then post-purchase surveys as a qualitative layer that you can layer on top of any other quantitative attribution you have. But it's important just to know what your attribution is tracking, right? If it's post-purchase survey, you want to know that that's really just what people are filling out and it's indicative of where they're seeing your brand and what's important to them. But of course, it's qualitative feedback from a user, so it's objective. Similarly, you want to know that if you're using something like a coupon code that's going to be like directly tracked, just click through on the ad based on that coupon code in the UTM, or the coupon code they're entering at purchase, so you know where they're coming from. But again, that doesn't tell you anything about the person's intent. So regardless of the method, you just need to know what you're using and then how to combine those different points of data to make your own estimate about what's happening with your customers, right? None of these platforms can tell you what's actually going on in your customer's mind. Piecing these different points of attribution together is how you do that using your own reasoning.
Yep, 100%.
Which is our second part about attribution. So we've seen B2B a lot recently, people talking about using post-purchase surveys to do what's called hybrid attribution, where people are taking some of the click-based data that we're getting from the browsers on these sites people are on while they're clicking over to platforms, signing up for email lists, signing up for calls, and combining that with the qualitative data from post-purchase surveys. So we're seeing this hybrid attribution model become a lot more prevalent in D2C marketing. Everyone's talking about using post-purchase surveys for good reason. We always tell clients to use it either for talking about what they're seeing on the different ad channels, just to get another idea of where actual demand is being generated for the products, or to get more idea about the user experience as they're going through a purchase funnel. So Austin, what do you think is like the most important way to use post-purchase surveys? I know there's quite a few use cases you've come up with.
I mean, for us, from how we can use it as a utility for clients is mainly, the questions: A, where did you first see us? But B, what retail stores do you shop at? And C, what is the main benefit or reason that you're trying the product? Because that gives us, A is cool, here's like a secondary touch point of attribution where the customer is telling us they first heard about us from this person, from an influencer, from TikTok, from an ad, from whatever. B gives us the ability to help clients with retail and knowing which chains to go after, but also with targeting on the platforms and which logos to use if we're already in those retail stores in the ads. And then C helps with developing copy and messaging around the benefits that someone actually is trying to get from the product. So those are like the 3 that I would say really help overall with from using those post-purchase attribution surveys.
Yeah, no, those are all so important. And I love that a lot of these points, especially the where are you purchasing in retail and what is the main use case or why do you purchase the product, we're usually trying to get people to double up on those as well with like some part of their sequence. Usually it's a welcome survey that goes out as one of the first emails. So we have multiple points on this. This is really important too, because when people talk about why they're using the product and other questions they're going to answer, you start to get a feel for what types of people are purchasing your product just in general, based on everyone's interacted with a lot of people. You can kind of start to bucket what types of people are purchasing your product. And what's cool is when you start to see trends like the types of people that are purchasing in what types of retail centers or the types of people that are purchasing for what use case. That gives you really important information on how to position the product and messaging for ads, which is a huge part of this feedback loop that we're creating by paying for media spots, Facebook ads, whatever it is.
Yeah, 100%.
I love the retail one too. That's so underutilized right now.
Yeah, there's tons more, right? But those three are like minimum viable, usable questions to ask every person who enters into the brand ecosystem.
Do you want to go over how to start your first set of tests or how to get TikTok influencers?
TikTok influencers, because I feel like this is like such a low barrier to entry that anybody can use.
Yep.
One of the so TikTok is a whole beast, and if you're not already using it, it probably seems super intimidating. But if you're a product that's even relatively known, you probably have a better leg up than you thought you did. Type in your product or brand name or both and see who's already been doing reviews about you. There's especially for us being in the CPG, health and wellness, food product space, there's so many of these influencers who go like, here's what I do daily. Like, this is my day as like a fit 23-year-old. And they always are highlighting and tagging products because of the fact that they want the notoriety, the affiliate commission, whatever the reason is. So there's probably tons of content you could already start using, A, for the brand account, B, for Spark ads for your actual ads. So number one, easiest way to get some TikTok influencers on board for Spark ads is to look for, use your search abilities on TikTok, find some people talking about your product, look for follower account, of course, 50, 100, 200, 300,000 followers. It's not uncommon to have people with that many followers already sharing your products, and then reach out and see if they're open to just doing commission on the post or if they're just open to you using it first. If they ask for payment, typically the thing to lead with is like, hey, we don't know if this is going to perform. We'd love to test it. And if it does perform, then we'd love to rediscover or, reopen that conversation and talk about creating more content for Spark ads. So I think it becomes a win for everybody. And it's such an easy, low barrier to entry for almost every brand.
Yeah, super easy to execute. So the other one is, this is another one that's easy to execute. So this is kind of it's like a 5-step framework for getting tests up. If you're starting with either a new product or a product that's maybe had some success, but not so much on DTC channels, and you're trying to start from scratch testing, this is mostly for social ads, so Meta or TikTok. And this one, we're going to give a Meta example of how we would get an account started totally from scratch just to get the first set of tests up.
Yeah. So few things. I would say this approach doesn't work with a business that is just starting. Just starting as in sub $1 million in revenue a year. You would want at least 1,000, but more so 10,000 purchases on your product over its lifetime in order to do this most effectively and to maximize, return. But we've done this with products that have less, and we've done this with new companies as well. But I just preface it. Best results will always come from having a lot of data that you can use. And if you have that data, the first thing you do is you create a pixel, you upload offline event data set. So basically you're telling Facebook that you got a bunch of purchases that it didn't recognize in the last 3 months. You train that pixel up, and then you start this minimum viable campaign structure. One campaign, conversion event, purchase, because that's what we're all going for. Or most people listening are probably going for purchases. And do it as a CBO. So you want it to be easy at first. Do it as broad. As long as you train the pixel on those 1 to 10,000 purchases, you can use broad. If not, use your best estimation at a pretty decent sized audience. So 20, 50, 100, 200 million people. For instance, we'll use health and wellness, or we'll use an amalgamation of influencers that are around a specific field for the ad set level. I typically stick to auto placements for this. I want to give Facebook a decent amount of control to really determine what is the most effective content. I do use demographic restrictions, so male, female, 18 through 65, whatever the age and gender and country/region is. Making sure you're just specific on that. Not city, not getting down or on a state level, but just country. And then excluding previous buyers, that 10,000 person audience list. Okay, so now you have campaign set up, you have ad set set up, and now we're trying to test what types of content work and resonate best with our audience. This works best if we already have an offer that we know converts. If we don't have an offer that we know converts, then we'll get some data, but we won't get all of the data necessary to understand what content works best for a winning offer. So having a winning offer is like typically the best way to start this as well. There's 5 types of content. There's lifestyle, there's UGC, there's testimonials, there's product photography, product videos. Those are together, we'll just call them product. And then there's influencer content. The best converting test you could start with is the influencer content. So we test between 3 and 6 pieces of content at a time. If you do 3 per, like 3 for each of those categories, you have 15. So that would be between 2.5, 3 to 6 tests, depending on if you're running 3 at a time. And the thing that we make sure that we're doing is we're allowing Facebook to choose the budget. The reason I say this is a lot of times we want to think that every creative should get spent, and that's how we know whether or not the creative is going to be effective. And I've tested this a million times because creative teams love to know whether or not each creative worked based on the amount spent. If Facebook is not choosing it out of those 3 or 6 creatives that you put in there, it's probably not going to convert. And Facebook knows that it's not going to convert. And so because of that, it's not giving it any money. So creatives that aren't getting the spend, I would not then always duplicate the ad set and like make sure it gets spend unless you really want data for that specific creative. Like if you pay for a high production video and you want to be able to know whether or not it's performing or know whether or not at 30 seconds in, people are still watching, great, go for it. But if you're just trying to allow the system of Facebook to optimize as much as possible, and it is a black box and no one actually understands it fully, don't try to make sure that every single image gets $200, $250 to spend so that we know that it did 3 to 5x CPA per creative.
Yeah. Well, this is another one too, is like, I know people are going to ask this because we always talk about the logistics behind getting this amount of creative when people are like, hey, we're putting these up and just throwing them out. When do you definitively say, like, I am throwing this creative out?
From a spend perspective, 3 to 5 times CPA and spend on the creative on between 2 and 3 audiences. So the reason I say that is sometimes the broad doesn't work. And so I use the interest audience as well, just to test it. Like, I mean, at this point, we've got a very tuned in assumption of what does work and what wouldn't work. And so if I'm seeing a creative that I'm like, this should be working based on our estimations, I'm going to test it again every time.
Yeah. One other thing I wanted to add to, didn't want to interrupt you on a tear there, was backdating the audience. So we talked about 10,000 purchases for a pixel that's quote unquote seasoned. The one caveat is if you have a ton of purchases that you made through your CRM and you can upload that data to Facebook and you can do matching to get basically backdate a pixel with data from previous purchasers, that can work decently well. So it's not a guarantee, but if you have a huge CRM with lots of purchasers, you want to do that. You can upload your CRM data in a CVS format into Facebook to backdate the pixel with purchase data. So it can go find who of those purchasers are already on the platform and match their data to create audiences for you. So you can create lookalikes and essentially have majority of the data you'd have from purchases on Facebook, minus some of the correlation between like what ads people are clicking through on and the creatives, but it's a lot of the data. So that might get you around it. I'd say it's at least like a 50% chance if you have a large CRM. So definitely that's a consideration as well. If you're one of these smaller companies under $1 million in revenue, don't have 10,000 purchases, you might be able to pull this off with significant CRM data.
Yeah, and I would say the other, and no one's talking about this, is literally making sure you work with an influencer who's seeing conversions with other brands, because your account is optimizing around conversions based on previous data that you have. Facebook is doing optimizations based on every ad, based on what it understands leads to conversion. Now, if you have purchase as your selected event that it's optimizing for, Facebook knows what a purchase is. And if it knows what your price and value is, it's not dumb. It's not like, oh, I have to relearn how all this works. Yes, it's going to fine tune and optimize over time. But the best way to do it is to literally circumnavigate the system by going to an influencer in your niche who sells a similar product that already converts and running an ad from that person's page to your website. You're going to get over all the nasty stuff when it comes to a lower CTR, lower CPM, more expensive CPC because the influencer likely is getting better rates than your brand would. And Facebook already knows that person and how their posts convert because it's optimized tons of their posts before. So that is something that will help you kind of get over that ledge as well. It's crucial for sure.
Yeah, no, it's so, I know we talk about this every episode, but it's so big because like, even if you have an influencer that's big in a certain space, there's still, that could get you better performance, but then there's another huge difference between an influencer that's big in a certain space and one that has continually promoted nearly identical products at nearly identical price points because they have an audience that's essentially trained, like conditioned to purchase those types of products. And Facebook knows that. It definitely knows that.
Oh yeah, they do. Yeah, they're not dumb. Skip the learning phase. It'll be much easier that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a guarantee. Those are the big topics, the 4 we have for today. What else do you want to talk about?
I don't know, man. It's raining outside today.
Awesome eclectic weather, man.
It's crazy. Everything's good, though. Market, decent. Media buying, good. America? Question mark. I don't know.